We have Mr. Katsuya Okada with us today. Thank you very much to be here. My name is Baumgartner. Sorry, I should introduce Ms. Takamatsu, our interpreter. She's here today. It's a pleasure. I'm the president of the club so far. You know, we never know what can happen, even in the press club. Press club politics are as volatile as Minchuto politics. The last time Mr. Okada came to the club, it was in August. He thinks he came earlier. He was at that time the foreign minister. So you can always ask Mr. Okada what is worse today, to be foreign minister or the secretary general of the Minchuto. I wish I could be more cheerful in introducing the son of the founder of the Ion Group. Okay, I wish the Minchuto was as great as the little Ion supermarket I go every day near where I live. And the great thing your party has achieved, Mr. Okada, is to get rid of the Jinito. The only good news is that you are here in the club today without your protective clothes against radiations. The last time in the Toroku, people who met you were surprised to see you in such a disguise. For the rest, Mr. Okada, according to Gerald Curtis, the Columbia University professor, he spoke at the club on July 20th. I hope you will not arrest him. This is a totally dysfunctional government. The Minchuto is in disarray. Something is going to blow because the extent of public disgust is quite extreme, Mr. Curtis said. So, Mr. Okada, please tell me I'm over pessimistic. The diagnostic of Gerald Curtis is too gloomy and everything is fine. Please reserve a very warm welcome to Mr. Okada.
民主党幹事長の岡田達也です。今日はこういう機会をいただきありがとうございます。
Hello, I've just been introduced. I am Okada, Secretary General of the DPJ. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak before you.
私の記憶によれば、半年くらい前にここでお話をしたことになっているのですが、どうもそれは間違った記憶のようで、時間が経つのは非常に早いものだと改めて感じます。
I was thoroughly convinced that I had been here about 6 months ago, but I've been told that my memory is faulty, that it has been a year since I've come. So it's probably an indication that for me, time has passed very, very quickly.
今日は日本の政治と民主党というタイトルで少しお話をさせていただき、後ほど皆さんから様々ご意見いただきたいと思います。
So today I'm going to speak on the future of Japanese politics and the Democratic Party of Japan, and after that I would like to take your questions.
まだ国会が8月末が会期ですから、非常に終盤ということになっております。いくつかの課題についてお話ししたいと思います。
As you know, we are now in the middle of a regular session of the Diet. The Diet deliberations are scheduled to end at the end of August. As a result, I may say that we are kind of in the home stretch, the last portion of the Diet deliberations. I'd like to talk now about a few of the themes or issues that we are deliberating at present.
その前に、菅総理はいつ辞めるのかと、そういうご質問がこれからあるかと思いますが、私はそういう質問には答えをいたしません。地味な問題だと。
Before I begin, however, I would like to mention that I know that the first question that many of you will want to ask me is, when do you think Mr. Khan will resign? And I will tell you right up front that I am not going to respond to that question. I think it is basically a meaningless question.
つまりいつ辞めるかを決めるのは日本国総理大臣としての菅さんの判断でありまして、人に言われて決めることではありません。絶対にですから時期を明示しないということはもう分かっているわけで、分かっていて聞くというのは時間の無駄です。
The reason I say that is because, as you know, the decision as to when to step down is a decision that is made by the Prime Minister of Japan. It is his right to make that decision. As a result, he will never indicate in advance exactly when he will step down. That is what I mean by saying, when I say that it is a meaningless question, because to ask it, you know that he will never respond.
ただ、どういう状況になれば辞めるかということは明確に言っておられるわけで、特に公債特例法案、これは日本の国債発行するための根拠になっているという法律なんですが、これがまだ通っていない。つ まり日本国政府と国債を発行できないという状況にあります。この問題だけは少なくとも自分は解決して、その上でやめるということを明確に言っております。これが国益を踏まえた発言だと私は思っております。
However, certainly in regard to the conditions that must be met before he will step down, he has been very, very clear about these points. In particular, he is focused on the passage of a bill, and this bill is to allow the government of Japan to issue deficit-covering bonds. This bill must be passed, otherwise the Japanese government cannot issue the bonds and have enough money to run the government. He has said that he will ensure that ensure that he will see the passage of this bill, and I think that that is the primary condition for him to step down. I believe he made these remarks because he really had the national interest in mind.
皆さんにも正確に理解していただきたいんですが、日本国政府は今年度国債を発行できないという状況にあります。したがって秋以降、日本の税収を使い果たせば歳出ができない。最近のアメリカと同じような状況、あるいはそれより深刻な状況にあると直面しているということです。
I do want to make sure that you have an accurate understanding of our situation. At present, unless this bill is passed, the Japanese government cannot issue government bonds. As a result, although it has in its budget tax revenues that it has gathered or taken in, once it uses up all of these tax revenues, starting in the fall, it will no longer be able to pay its bills. In other words, to provide any expenditures. In other words, the Japanese government will find itself in the same predicament as the United States. In fact, perhaps not the same predicament, but perhaps a more worse or serious predicament.
私は与党の会長として何度か警告をしております。つまりこのままでは我々は公務員の給与とかあるいは地方に対する支出とか地方政府に対する支出とかあるいは被災地に対する支援、そういったものができなくなるということです。同時にこの法案が通らないということは国債の格下げやあるいは金利の上昇につながりかねない非常に国益を害する状況にある。したがって、この法案を早く成立させてもらいたいということを何度か述べております。
I certainly regard this situation to be a very, very grave one. As a result, as the Secretary General of the ruling party, I have issued numerous warnings about this situation. What will happen if we cannot pass this bill and issue government bonds? It means that first of all, we will not be able to pay the salaries of civil employees, civil servants. We will not be able to make expenditures to regional governments. We will not be able to pay some of the costs needed to help restore the disaster-hit areas. At the same time, there are other ramifications. For example, the rating companies will lower the evaluations of Japanese government bonds. Interest rates may rise. In many ways, the national interest of Japan could be exposed to a great deal of damage. That is why we need a speedy passage of this bill.
金利が上がることのダメージは1000兆円近い国債を金融借金を抱えている日本政府にとって極めて深刻であります。
And in regard to interest rates rising, this is a tremendous problem for Japanese national interest in that, as you know, the Japanese government has issued some 1,000 trillion yen's worth of government bonds, and if interest rates on those rise, that's a tremendous burden on the government.
この法案は赤字国債を発行することができるという極めてシンプルな法案で、これを成立させない野党の考えというのは私には分かりません。今の赤字国債をたくさん発行しなければ予算が組めないという状況の大半は今野党である自民党あるいは公明党の時代に作り出されたものであって、これは民主党にももちろん責任がありますが、それ以上の責任を今言った2党が負っているわけです。
When we look at this bill, it is a very, very simple bill. It simply means that if we pass this bill, the government will have the right to issue deficit-covering bonds. And as a result of this fact that it is such a simple and necessary bill, I cannot understand the thinking behind the opposition parties of why they are opposing the passage of this bill. especially when you consider that we need to issue these deficit covering bonds because so much of the expenditures in our budget come from the LDP and Komeito-led administration's time of rule. Of course, the DPJ certainly bears a great responsibility for much of the allocations in the budget, but a great deal of it, or most of it, comes from the period of the LDP Komeito rule.
今、日本の発行する国債の半分以上は過去の国債の借金の利払いのためのものであります。この一言だけで私が先ほど申し上げたことをそれ以上説明する必要はないと思います。
To make this even more clear, I can say that when we look at the government bonds that we have to issue, more than 50% of that revenue has to go into paying the interest on outstanding government bonds. That alone tells you how much past government administrations have been responsible for the current situation.
この法案をてこにして、与党から政府からさまざまな妥協を出そうと。こういう手法は、私は決して、国の利益にはならないし、やってはならないことだというふうに言っております。
Of course, we understand that the opposition parties are using this bill as a way of basically using it as leverage to try to extract more and more compromises from the ruling parties. However, this, I believe, is not something that helps the national interests. It is also something that I believe should not be allowed. It is not correct.
この問題が抱える状況についてですね、皆さんに正確に理解をしてもらいたいと思って少し詳しくお話をいたしました。
I do apologize for taking some time to explain the situation, but it is a very, very important issue, and I wanted to make sure that you understood the details very accurately.
アメリカのデフォルトをめぐる報道は連日日本の新聞の一面トップを飾りましたが、この日本の法案、海事国債を発行するための法案に関して、私が発言してもほとんど報道されませんし、日本の新聞はそれを無関心を装っている、メディアはですね、無関心を装っているわけですが、私はそれはアメリカ以上の状況だということを申し上げたいと思います。
As you know, the possibility that the U.S. government might might go into default was something that was very much played up in the news. Even in the Japanese newspapers, this issue was on the front page of every newspaper every day for some time. However, in regard to the very similar situation that we are facing in Japan, in regard to this passing of this government bond bill, although I, as Secretary General, made comments about it repeatedly, almost all of the Japanese media basically do not feature this in major articles. I believe that the media is deliberately kind of turning a blind eye to this issue, but I would like again to point out that our situation is perhaps even more serious than the situation faced by the United States.
あと今昨日も今日も国会の中で議論になっておりますのは、子ども手当をめぐる問題です。
And as many of you know, in the past few days, yesterday and today in particular, we have been focusing in the Diet deliberations on the issue of the child allowance.
これはあまり皆さんご関心ないかと思いますので、詳しくは申し上げませんが、我々も相当耐え難きを耐えて、いろんな妥協をしてきておりますが、妥協すればするほどハードルが上がると、そういうふうに感じております。
I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, as this is something that is very much a domestic policy and perhaps not of such great interest to you. However, I would like to say that in regard to the negotiations or the discussions on this issue, we have endured the unendurable for some time, and we have tried to offer compromise after compromise. Yet it seems to me that the more we compromise, the higher the hurdles that are presented to us become.
子育て、子供を持つ親にとってこの子ども手当というのは非常に重要な収入といいますか手当になりますので、政治的なにもてあそぶことなくしっかりとそういった子育て世代あるいは子どもを見て、いい政策を作っていく、そういう気持ちで対応していただきたいと思います。
I believe that for parents with children, this child allowance is a very, very important issue, a very important source of revenue, perhaps. As a result, I do not think it should be used as a political tool. Therefore, I would like to ask my colleagues in the opposition parties to please look at the raising of children and think about their importance and try to form